Hi there, knife people. Hello, lady and gentlemen. You probably saw my video on how to make Worksharp Professional Precision Adjust tool actually perform as a professional tool with the help of very simple, inexpensive mods. Or what if you don't have $250 to $300 to spend, or if you own the original Worksharp Precision Adjust and still want to get these professional results. And, you know, even though they advertise it gives you professional results, it doesn't. And here's why. It wobbles here in the adjustment area. So as you're sharpening, this pivot moves. After you use it 30-40 times, this also develops play. It can actually give you a variability in the bevel that you're trying to create there with this tool. The knife holder itself can wobble in this direction, side to side, and up and down. And the frame doesn't connect to the base perfectly as well, which is really not that much of a concern because the angle is important between here and here. But, you know, it just, you know, it's not great. But what if I told you that 2 zip ties, 4 riveted grommets, a piece of copper piping, and a little bit of duct tape can take care of all these problems, almost all of them, and for less than half a price of this guy, give you an edge that you're actually looking for. If I told you that I like challenges, would you be surprised? Probably not. So when I set out to modify this device, I set some goals. First of all, I wanted to have modifications done that anyone at home without the use of any special tools could apply to this device. Secondly, an even higher challenge, I wanted to make modifications that don't permanently change anything you see here. So there are no permanent mods to the device that in anything you're about to see. No screws, nor split pins, no epoxy, nothing. Nothing but what I enumerated in the beginning. So let's start and take it all in the same order as I was showing it to you. So here's the wobble on this. And the reason is this is very inexpensive screw here. Sometimes it's called worm gear. What it allows this carriage to do is go up and down. And on this side is just a sleeve. The black part is a sleeve that slides up and down on the rod. So the rod here is pretty well fixed. By the screw, because it has to rotate, they're left pretty loose. So the whole thing moves. The screw moves, and then the sleeve is too loose for the rod, even though the rod is in place solidly. So my first fix, I'm going to use white zip ties. White so you can see them in the black background of this device. Right here on the top of this worm gear, there's this cylindrical bearing surface. And in essence, that's what I'm doing with the zip tie. I'm creating this bearing that will allow the worm gear to rotate while I'm actually putting some tension on it so it doesn't wobble. I'm using a 4mm wide zip tie, which fits perfectly in there. And I'm putting quite a bit of tension so that it's all nice and snug. It doesn't preclude anything from happening, but eliminates the wobble of the screw itself. Now, it's a little more challenging with this side. Like I said, I didn't want to modify it. It still wobbles because there's some play in the threads. But I realized quickly that if I just simply run the zip tie around the lower portion of it, also with a significant amount of tension, now it will stop wobbling. Now, here's the interesting part. When I move this up, it will eventually slide out of the zip tie. But what you can do here is just when you're adjusting upward, you can just run your hand or just let it fall off and then reattach, and it still will maintain this tension. So right now this whole carriage system is pulled apart and there's nothing there to like cause any damage. And when you adjusting it downwards, As you can see, this zip tie stays stationary, allows the screw to rotate, and this zip tie is sliding down. It's skipping a little bit, but none of that is a big deal. All right, so now you successfully eliminated this one. A bigger problem is, if you look closely right here, there is a play. This is a button. There's a spring behind it, and it's connected to this cylinder here. This can wobble. Can you see it? You can see how much it moves. So what's the prescription for that? The diameter of the base of this conically shaped button is 63/64 of an inch, while the hole in the plate is just slightly over an inch. It measures something like 1.06 inch. And that's where this piece of standard copper piping comes in. Its nominal inside diameter is 1 inch, and the OD is 1.13. So it's slightly oversized. The reason I cut the slot in the pipe longitudinally, it's about 1/8 inch slot, is for it to fit. When I inserted it, it fits snugly between the hole in the back plate and the button. The hole is not flat, there's a little bit of a lip to it, and the button being conical creates a single circle of contact on the inside of that pipe. I made it long enough to bottom out against the inside of the front wall of the cavity there. The reason it appears to be longer than necessary, the overall length is 1 3/4 inch, is so that you have enough purchase to pull it out. So there's a 1/2 inch lip protruding that you can pull on if you need to remove it from the device. This eliminated 95% of the wobble, but to have this rock solid feeling, you need to make sure that the bottom of the tower fits snugly with the base. After months of use, these tops just simply don't produce enough downward pressure. And for that, I use a doubled up piece of duct tape. Basically, putting a little bit of a duct tape there takes care of that. And now you don't have that. So now I can show you better here. So I'm moving this front and there's almost no motion here. And you don't need to remove it to turn the device. You can still compress it. Awkward angle here. Let me do it this way. You can still compress it and it turns. 1, 2, 3, issues resolved. Now, there is a play between jaw attachment and this cylinder itself. And it's because of these little primitive tab connectors here and a single magnet that holds it in. So I was not able to completely eliminate this. I could have done something mechanical. Like I tried, let me show you like a real how do I say that politely? Rigged solution that I tried. Where is it? So basically I took like a finishing nail and stuck it in here, and it helps, especially if you put two little nails like this. But it doesn't eliminate it completely, and then whenever you rotate, you have to remove those nails. So I discarded that idea. I didn't want to put anything permanent, like set screws or anything that would intervene with this ease of rotation. What I did use is, from my previous video, I showed you this blade support, prevents blade from wobbling. And using two of these guys with this device is a must-have, and I'll show you how they operate. One thing to mind is on some of these devices that I've seen, when you rotate, they end up in a slightly different height. And that can play havoc or wreak havoc on your blade symmetricity. So these supports solve that, and I will show you how in a little bit. All that I could take care on the base has been taken care of. Fixing, sharpening plate carrier is next. And for that, you're going to need these grommets that you can find on Amazon. You don't need a riveting tool itself. Sometimes they come as a set, but I'll give you a link to the correct sized grommets themselves without the tool, because you don't need a riveting tool to do what I'm about to do. But before we go into that, let's talk about the device itself. Originally, I purchased just this set. This set came in the box. It did not have a convenient carrier case that your Elite setup would come with. The tool itself is identical between Elite and a basic Worksharp Precision Adjust. And for size comparison again, this is Worksharp Professional Precision Adjust. Came with a single media carrier here, and it has a ceramic, probably about 1,000 to a 1,200 grit, and then it has a 600 grit and a 320. This setup will get you through basic sharpening, maybe reprofile the edge and then clean it up and then hone it. You would have to buy a separate strobe or make one. I probably did 50 to 60 sharpenings, and this being plastic, there are no bushings of any kind. The plastic is egging out in an up and down direction because it's always orientated this way. So the more you sharpen, the more the plastic in the area of the holes that connected to the rod are wearing out, and you're getting additional wobble as if there was not enough play in this device already. And that's the rub. The design of this device is fundamentally good, especially for $60. The only other device in the price range here is that original Lansking Red box, and the Worksharp is orders of magnitude better. The first reason I bought this Elite add-on is because it offers better portability than the professional tool while giving me the same variability in the grit size, which is perfect for the long weekend getaways. After all, sharpening is my zen zone. And the second reason, and maybe even more importantly, I am trying to deliver quality content for you guys, so perhaps I wouldn't have bought that additional kit if I didn't want to make this particular video. And that's the key. I paid for that kit out of my own pocket, and it's like $70 spent. I don't mind, because this video, I think, will benefit the community. I am not affiliated with Worksharp. They do not provide freebies for me for review. I'm not affiliated with any knife company for that matter, or a retailer. So your views, likes, shares, subscriptions, and super thanks, it's all I can count on to keep the channel going. Thank you for watching this interlude here. Back to the tool. So what is this? This is a supplemental Elite kit. Comes in a handy case like this. And it came with 3 media carriers here. And starting with the finest, it has this here. It has a strop and a small rod. And I already tested it on a serrated knife. It works just fine to correct the serrations. Then you have a rough media, 320, 220, and what's the third one? And 400. So 220, 320, and 400. Just like on the big device over there, on the professional. Same grit distribution. And then finally a fine device with 600, 800, and a ceramic plate. And that ceramic plate is identical to this one. As you can see, they left the space open here. So if you already have this device, that gives you a convenient place to store this media here as well. And they're in all respects identical other than the grit sizes. So when they ship this as a kit, as an Elite kit, this does not come with it. And the price difference, bear with me here. The basic tool is $60. The additional Elite kit that you see here on your right is $80. And if you bought the Elite kit from the get-go, it would cost you $130, but it would not come with the additional 4th plate carrier like I ended up having here. And by the way, those diamond plates held up really well, so they're still useful. So Out of these devices, I already modified this one, and it currently runs without any rattle. And it did have a little bit of rattle between the carrier and the rod. And it's a little bit snugger than without it, but it's breaking loose as we speak. Plus I lubricated using good synthetic oil or some kind of lithium grease or something like that. So leave this up to you. So I'm gonna set it aside, and then I'm going to take my old device and modify it first. Again, this is the sound this makes, and this makes no sound at all. And here's the factory device, and it should be somewhere in between. And there's some play there too. So I will not modify this one because the structure is different, and you really don't need that level of precision on stropping because you're touching it lightly, and you don't want to be super tight when you addressing the serrations because you want to have this sensation. I'll get through it when I do the sharpening with serrated blade, probably in a future video. I can actually disassemble my device, and even with my mods, it stores finely without any issues. So that goes in like this, and this goes in like so. As you can see, all is flush, nothing is sticking out. And that leaves me some space to put my magnets, my blade supports right here. I also have black polishing compound for when I'm ready to apply it to this strap. I don't use green much. This is a little bit more aggressive, slightly more aggressive than the green, and it works better on tool steels and super steels that most knives come in. Yeah. Like this. All right. You also have room for another device, which in my opinion, a must-have. I went ahead and I purchased this angle finder, also on Amazon, and I will also provide the link. Again, those links help out the channel, so you can actually either fit it here and move these over here, you know, so it all neatly stows like so. This is optional if you're just following the factory angle. You don't really need an angle finder, but I highly recommend you buy one because, not because I have a link, but because eventually you will want to reshape or reprofile the blade, and you will need this. It comes with a handy little screwdriver that allows you to open the battery compartment. So I bought these brass coated grommets on Amazon. The set of, I think they said it's 100, although it looks like more, but I'll take their word for it. There's a whole bunch of these. If you have just the basic tool, you will need 2. If you have Elite, you will need 4. And if you're combining the basic tool and the Elite, you will need 6. That's how it's going to work out. Now, all the rest of them will remain in your possession for future projects. I'm sure we'll come up with some good uses for these. Anyway, so let's start with the one that rattles the most, which is my original older one. The way you disassemble, you remove this little rubber washer here, and then it just comes apart. And this central piece has 2 triangular bushings that basically guide this piece, and these cutouts are for indexing when you rotate. When you rotate the media, they lock in to these little springs. Start by selecting grommets that slide freely on the rod. They are not all created equal. Some have burrs on the end and deformations that will prevent it from sliding freely. Then drop them into the bushings like so. They go in freely. You just have to make sure they're straight in and then put the bushings on the end of the media carrier. Just like that. You need to tap it in a little bit. That also flattens the grommet shoulder there. Makes it flush or almost flush with the surface. That's important because otherwise they won't fit properly in. Reinstall sharpening media carrier into the shell. It all will feel a little more snug than before you installed the grommets. Line up the holes and insert the rod from one side and then flip it over, set your eyes on the other end, make sure it goes straight through. Make sure everything is sliding freely. It's going to feel a little different from before. Reinstall the rubber washer and it's good to go. And that's without oil, so I'm going to oil it liberally. And by liberally, I don't mean while pursuing a progressive agenda. I just mean put a lot of oil on it. If one of these assemblies feels a little too tight comparing to others, here's one that feels better to me for comparison. You can expedite the wear-in process by using your handheld drill. I never checked the straightness of these rods. But there is a reason the professional precision adjust has a machine rod versus just a wire rod that you see here. And so I'm checking the 3 media carriers before I start sharpening. And the plan is to bring this Benchmade 750 Pinnacle that I got secondhand to a proper sharpness. It's a 30-year-old knife made with the ATS 34 steel. For now, it cuts like this. Well, this was a long video. I will save sharpening for the next episode. For now, have a good night.